Hey ZeWei, this is Danny from Locati Portals.
Hey.
You know Chinese, right?
我的名字ZeWei来自汉字，虽然
Oh, cool, right.
现在我的普通话不好，但是还是能说一
Cool.
点。
Right, well,
为什么？
what I'm getting at is the Chinese office that we just started up a few weeks ago went to explore Dimension 78H. The main person went missing after sending over the first draft document. The language in that dimension is supposedly really complicated. None of us can read any of their stuff because all of the documents are in Chinese.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I know a contract with you hasn't even started. Our new website isn't even up and running yet. Maybe we can fudge things to get this through a little early.
Yeah, sure. Send me what you can. I'll look into
Awesome.
it.
Yeah. Well, we'd let you make a video about it too if you want. You can even use it for that circus thing you were talking about. I'll send you the info in a few.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, the language of the Anizao people of Dimension 78H, written by Feng Fang. You sure this is the right doc?
Yeah, this is definitely the one that was sent to me. It's the only Chinese doc currently in our system.
Okay, because the phonology is like really simple. Pa ta da ka ga ma na nga sa za ha ha la with vowels I u e o a. Sure, there's u and but this doc says they don't even show up super often. And there's nothing crazy about overlongs or any of these allophones. Plus, the phonotactics are the same as the Polynesian languages.
Okay.
The syllabary isn't bad either. It seems to be perfectly regular. Yeah, there's some weird characters that don't match the pattern, but they're pretty rare anyway.
Well, look,
why were they having trouble with this?
Look, I'm not quite sure, really. All I know is that this is the right doc.
Okay.
Take a look further down. They've got other stuff they've been able to pass, like simple grammar, vocabulary.
Okay, yeah, so our word order is object, verb, subject, adjectives after nouns. Okay, a little unintuitive as a native English speaker, but I can get used to that. Oh, cool, this will be easy then. Hey guys, today was my first day in Dimension 78H. I'm in a very warm tropical city. There's like a cool ocean breeze and a bunch of beaches nearby. It's a little awkward because I stand out a lot. The people here are like anthropomorphic palm trees. I'm not allowed to take any pictures of them yet, but this stock photo will have to do. They're sort of like this, except taller and angrier. Also, their technology is very advanced. Like, I think some of them are even cyborgs. And because of them being literal trees with eyes and mouths, I see their anatomy must make this phonology a little more complicated than what was made out to be. So after some listening, I'm pretty sure the chart looks something more like this. But I'm not pronouncing that, so we're gonna stick with these. They seem passable anyway. Anyways, I had a really uncomfortable interaction with the person running the hotel here. I used the vocabulary and grammar I got from the doc, but they acted incredibly rudely to me. I managed to get this room regardless, I assume just for the night, but I'm not quite sure. The hotel also had a map of what I guess is the surrounding region of the world I'm in, but I can't read anything it says. I recognize a couple characters from the syllabary, but most of them are way more complicated. Hey, it's ZeWei editing here. A couple days afterward, I've figured out what those complicated characters mean now, so I'm gonna use them wherever they're appropriate in my examples, because Shut up. Okay, back to the video, sorry. Oh, and also, minor issue. Since these guys are all trees, they don't need to, like, eat food, so they also don't seem to understand that I need to eat in order to survive. So there's no food anywhere for me. I have a couple days worth of food in the reserve, but I called Locati Portals and they're gonna try and figure something out for the long term. All right, day 2. I'm still in this hotel, but I managed to explore the city a little bit. I think I figured out why the hotel person was rude to me. Well, honestly, so far everyone has been pretty mean. Turns out I only had half the story, so the document they gave me only has what I now think is the informal version of the language, and someone like me, who is a foreigner and I guess a lower class person, shouldn't be using any of these words. They were responding using the informal words though, so I guess I have to be speaking in one register and listening in another. While I say su to mean hotel, the palm guy running this place refers to it as me whenever they would talk to me about it. But I did catch them say a form of the word su to what I think is their manager or something, so because of that, I'm pretty confident in thinking this is a formality system. The hotel guy called the informal words u aragai kausunga and the formal ones to be u arai zama. After a while, even though they were frustrated with me, they did seem to understand that I was just trying to figure out their language. So after a lot of very awkward back and forth, they helped me figure out the case system, I think. So Eaya has 6 cases: nominative, accusative, dative, instrumental, genitive, and inessive. The formal version also seems to have a vocative and an ablative. While this chart is a little scary because it seems there are fusional things going on, I'm staying optimistic because if this is all I need to worry about, I should be fine. I also tried to ask them if they knew of any other foreigners around because I need to look for Feng, the person missing from the Chinese office. They seem to have no clue though, unfortunately. Okay, it's the morning of day 3. The hotel manager must have called some higher ups because they came in my room while I was sleeping, by the way, and began transporting me over here as I was still waking up. It's rather high tech in here, as you can probably tell by everything behind me. Lots of cyborg trees here, very busy. It seems to be in the heart of the city. I wonder if this is government related. I'm kind of in a waiting room at the moment. Figured I'd record something in the meantime. I'll update y'all when I know what's going on though. I hope this isn't related to how Feng went missing. Oh, I think they're Major news! Turns out I've been taken to the palace of these people's ruler, Ngao. While I haven't met them yet, apparently they appointed an Anizao linguist to help us understand each other. So I've been talking to this linguist. They're a cyborg tree and their name is Kema, which I've learned means water, but I'm supposed to call them Ashisinga. More on that later. Yeah, the people at Lakari Portals were right. This language is definitely complicated. It feels like a rabbit hole. Whenever I figure something out, it comes along with a bunch more new questions. It's quite synthetic. Subjects can attach to verbs, all adjectives can attach to nouns, and the formal version even attaches objects to verbs too. So whole sentences are sometimes one single word. Okay, I thought that's fine. Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around as an English speaker, but languages like Inuktitut can do that just fine. Nothing too crazy yet. Kema then showed me... Ashisinga then showed me a chart up on their screen with around 30 different forms of their name and how people are supposed to refer to them. This is based on the relationship that the speaker has with that person and whether the speaker is using informal or formal dialogue. So basically, every name must agree with relationship and formality. Failure to do so may get you punished by, well, you heard what they said. But yeah, there's some interesting nuances that arise here. They call me ZeWei when I'm understanding things, and ZeWei Sunga when I get something wrong. Also, side note, I think the Fran link is their version of the internet. Note that a lot of these suffixes are actually different. That's because while ZeWei is a loan word and I guess treated a little differently, Ashisinga's name is what they called a rain word. Well, mostly a rain word. We'll get back to these. They kept talking about sun, moon, rain, rock, and root words. These seem to be their 5 declensions, which every word follows regardless of their part of speech. I've marked in green the boxes that have more simple suffixes, and in red the ones that alter the quality of preceding vowels in unpredictable ways. This capital V stands in for those vowels here. These yellow ones change the vowel too, but I think I figured out a pattern to predict those ones. Also, yeah, their use of the term root word is totally different than how we would use that term in linguistics within our own dimension. That's something I'm still getting used to over here. Anyways, I haven't figured out a way to tell which declension a word will be, and on top of that, when the form of a word changes, often the declension category it's in will change to a different one. Other times, it turns into a completely different word entirely. Look, this word, mina, is a rain word on its own, rain in the nominative, and rock in the inessive. Then this word, ali, which means the exact same thing, just more formally, is a root word on its own, rain in the nominative, and sun in the inessive. Okay, I'm getting called back over. These guys have been pretty impatient. Be right back. Yes, I'm coming. Just turning off the camera. Help. I'm gonna leave the mic on, but I'm gonna try and make it look like the camera's off. Ani awema langa una aludaya daya sakuo savihi kaya sogama. Okay. Ow! Hey, let me go! What are you doing? Please! Okay. Hello everyone at Lakari Portals. I'm here, and I'm absolutely 100% safe, and there are no problems or issues, so don't come looking for me. You absolutely do not need to come looking for me. I've even found Feng. She's safe over here too. She's very, very safe. And because there are no problems, I'm gonna keep talking about things in the language that I'm learning. All right. Okay, so yeah, it feels like the formality hierarchy has entirely taken over the way that every aspect of the grammar works in Oeya. Do you remember that chart that I showed you with all of Ashisinga's names? Yeah, these relationship forms don't just apply to names. Every verb also gets conjugated with these relationship forms to create a rich system of tenses, aspects, and moods. So if you treat the verb to move as if it was a teacher, its meaning becomes to know how to move. Also note that some of these meanings are only valid in the formal, which means that even when speaking informally, speakers must code code switch to the formal to specify this meaning. This code switching seems to happen frequently. Of course, all these forms also combine with each other for more specific meanings, like I want to move and have learned a good way to achieve that. Every adjective also gets conjugated by your relationship with it, which gives very specific qualifiers, like saying scared as if it's a child means like newly scared, while scared as a parent means something like it's scared and has been that way for a while. And of course, lots of code switching happening here too. There's also some random nouns that get treated this way as well, and I think it may have something to do with their etymology, but often I can't tell if there's any rhyme or reason behind it. Since these words are part of the relationship hierarchy here, when speaking formally, you're expected to put each word in order of highest to lowest class. So the word order is OVS by default, yeah, but in the formal, it can honestly be anything, since your verb could be an older sibling, or your adjective could be a doctor. This ends up going to the extreme, because this is not only affecting the order of words in a sentence, but also the order of sentences in a paragraph and the order of paragraphs on a page. In order to convey things that are supposed to go in a chronological order, I guess they employ strategies to explain order in other ways, if that's really important to specify, because most higher-ups won't want to hear things chronologically, they'll want to hear things most relevant to them first. Maybe that's how this whole thing evolved. After teaching me this, Ashisinga gave me another chart, and oh god, I have been staring at this thing for ages. Pronouns. Over 600 of them. And that's after you remove the duplicates. Take that, Elon Musk. Pronouns split the formality system further into informal, very informal, formal, very formal, and what I'm calling ridiculously formal. First, second, and third person pronouns all have singular, dual, and plural forms, and each of those have different forms depending on the speaker's, listener's, or a third party's relationship with the person they're describing. Have you heard of absolute and relative tenses? These are absolute and relative pronouns. So I could say, as an influencer you may have a parasocial relationship with, I appreciate your likes and comments. I would be using this pronoun, which, as you can see, is slightly different than the one in the chart. That's partly because most first and second person pronouns, as subjects or objects, attach to verbs differently than every other noun. And on top of those pronouns, remember, each of these individually inflect for each of the 6 cases. Often, there's a fair amount of suppletion going on in those inflection tables too. That's all I got for today. I cannot wait for another day here at this awesome place. Ongao akaloki.
Aki. Olungai kumoa bishoku. Pei hodi roza nwamu awu. Ah, kimadu.
Hey, so Fang has a small camera on her. It can't connect to Lakari portals, but at least we can document what's been going on in case anyone finds us. Oh, how about? So basically, we've been made into servants of the king over here, and they're forcing us to learn their language so we can understand their orders better. For the latter half of the day, we've been forced to recite their numbers over and over, memorizing which ones must always be formal, which ones must always be informal, except for 24 through 31 and also 3, because those could be both, which numbers are considered high class and therefore must go at the beginning of sentences, which are considered low class and must go at the end, and also trying to get used to the base 8 system. I guess that part isn't too bad. We also have to learn how those numbers interact with our calendar system, including this 10-day holiday where everyone speaks formally, and this one day where everyone speaks informally. Apparently higher classes don't really abide by them though, if it makes them look weak or subservient. Anyways, we're starting to run out of food, and honestly, we don't know how we're gonna get out of this.
Aking esekaloki. Turasao satu akai osunga hei. How aki stiawa wa kaus kaunumana pungasonga. Another wonderful day here in Dimension 78H. Everyone has been so nice and welcoming and very helpful in teaching us their language. Me and Feng have spent the day learning thousands of logographs. Yeah, that complicated writing alongside the syllabary is a system of logographs. Apparently there's over 300 million of them. I don't think I'm learning them all. I do hope I'm not learning them all. But yeah, there's about 750 characters that sort of act like building blocks, similar to Chinese radicals. I was taught that when writing formally in the ancient times, those 750-ish characters were often written ornamentally in calligraphy, like the calligraphy common in the Arabic script. Over time, since this was the formal and respectful way to go about things, we now have 2 writing systems, a simple syllabary for informal writing and loanwords, and a complex logography for formal writing. These characters can combine to make a ton of very specific meanings, like this one. It's pronounced Ahimu Augaongema, and it means my friend's roots. in the dative. Yes, because of this system, logographs inflect for case. And of course, any code switching is reflected in writing. Also, did you know that when I said 5 declensions, I was supposed to say 20? Turns out there's 5 declensions for determining how a word interacts with a word following it, but there's 4 more declensions determining how a word acts with the word preceding it too. So every word is classified as an intersection of these 2 twin declensions. Great. We learned a couple things today. First, on top of the very complex formality system that affects literally every aspect of the grammar, idioms. Oh, there are so many idioms. Some are the same in both registers. Many are only present in one or the other and require code switching. Others are completely different in each register. Ashisinga here has been very nice and has been using very simple speech to help people like us learn the language. But apparently, no one actually talks like that. Everyone uses so many idioms that the actual meaning of any sentence can get so weirdly obscured. There's idioms, inside idioms, and thousands of unique idioms baked into conjugation tables for very specific words, which I now see was why there were weird exceptions in Ashisinga's name chart. So, it seems whenever Fang and I hear a sentence, we have been advised to go through the following steps. 1. Figure out which formality the speaker is using by default, though remembering code switching is very common and often the only grammatically correct way of saying certain things. 2. Use the many declensions to figure out how to subdivide each word into its parts, recognizing words get incorporated into each other much more frequently in the formal register. 3. Figure out if there are any words conjugated for the relationship formality hierarchy in here, and remember what meaning each of those signify when applied to different parts of speech. 4. Figure out which cases each word is in. Since we can't rely on word order, keeping in mind that we basically have double the case endings thanks to formality. 5. Take the literal meaning of what we just heard. Think of any idioms that we might have learned where that construction could fit in. Keeping in mind the meaning might be entirely different than what was said. 6. If they're speaking formally, figure out how it all works in the context of the greater paragraph or statement that they're saying, since in formal speech, things may not be in chronological order at all. And 7, be cautious, because any misstep here might lead to our immediate demise if we end up responding inappropriately. Now for the second main thing we've learned today. So a lot of these trees here are cyborgs. Ashisinga is one of them. Since the words here get rather long, the cyborgs have developed a better way to communicate information quicker using a combination of vowel formants and a 7-tone pitch system. Time for a little bit of music theory. So in our own dimension, it has become the standard for European musical tuning to have 12 notes in one octave, each equally spaced. But there's really no reason why 12 notes has to be the default, and in this culture, the default is 7. So over 2 octaves of 7 equally spaced notes, they designate specific pitches to indicate the consonant in a syllable and vocalize the vowel of the syllable in that pitch. Long vowels are indicated with a slight wiggle in that pitch, what we would call vibrato. This way they could stack a ton of syllables together with tiny millisecond delays to indicate the order of syllables in a word and use extra octaves or different spatial panning when the same consonant appears more than once. Cyborgs like Ashisinga have special audio processors that allow them to understand all this and convert it to intelligible dialogue at rapid speed. So that makes cyborg speak nearly impossible to understand for non-cyborg speakers, which is very good for the very high security military processes that this kingdom has. But what about if higher-ups want to keep information hidden from other cyborgs? Well, that's where encryption comes in. By default, speech by cyborgs sounds totally mangled to anyone in a class lower than them. Higher-ups can bypass this encryption with certain commands. So a middle-class cyborg, which is most of these guys, could either be speaking in the normal informal, normal formal, 7-tone informal, 7-tone formal, encrypted informal, or encrypted formal. All of these have a valid use in day-to-day speech and is something they switch between very frequently.
Imperatives. Okay.
Amani awema kingese ka huadeza lai unaihi asu. Shaisha akiala hau uluma huadema ku usi ungunga. Kiukusuna mateli kamoma hei ha izi asu. Loki. Oh my god, okay. Where is it? I think they were still recording. Pretty quickly. Oh my god, here it is.
This awesome place.
Terus tukima.
Ungao akaloki.
Okay. Ulungai kumoma bishuku.
Get on. We're out. Oh my god. Danny, get us a portal quickly.
I'm already on it. Just hang tight 1 second.